Well, hello there everyone, a very warm welcome to you all. James here once again. Delighted to bring to you today an introduction to my lovely 1978 Raleigh 20 Stowaway. Out for a bit of a jaunt today on it, and most enjoyable it is too. So I shall put in some sort of close-up shots. You'll notice the location is different and the lighting is better because I shot that yesterday. Weather's been pretty terrible on and off. So anyway, very importantly, thank you so much for tuning in and subscribing and watching and commenting. It's most appreciated. I was really quite sort of bowled over by the response that my introduction video got, so thank you all so much for that. It's really wonderful, and you know, this is turning out to be a fun adventure, and I hope to continue with it. So without further ado, a little bit of background on the Raleigh 20. Lots of information out there, and there's a lot of coverage on these bikes because they've become very popular, or have been very popular. And whilst I think of it, some of my inspiration came from a lovely fellow named Rowan of Velocipedium channel, which you need to have a look at if you haven't done. And he has one or two of these bikes, I believe, passing through his hands or currently in his ownership, and has had various other sort of 20-inch wheeled machines as well, which and so it was a bit of an inspiration for a starting point for my channel. And I've had my Raleigh 20 now for a couple of years, and it was, as I say, partly inspired by Rowan's channel. So, and he very kindly did a bit of a shout out on the socials for me. So thank you very much, Rowan. That's most kind of you. And I shall continue to enjoy your channel, and I say I hope I can bring a little bit of a similar kind of vibe, but my kind of thing. Obviously, we've got a couple of little different things to show and discuss. But so yes, I've had my Raleigh 20 for about a couple of years now, maybe 3, and it had been languishing on the back of a Volkswagen camper, and it had been sort of toured around for many years and used sort of here and there, so it was a little bit battered about. So I've had to do a full sort of tidy and refresh on it. This was an entirely standard machine, as I say, from 1978. It's got the original wheels, so you can see the stamping on the Stowaway 3-speed hub. Yeah, a very sort of fairly well used, well worn, battered example, but worthy of sorting out. So I set to, and at the time I didn't actually get any footage. You know, I just did it as a part of what I do as a hobby. You know, got it sort of tidied up and roadworthy again. But just as a quick sort of overview of what I did, essentially I'm long in the limb, so I didn't fit on it very well at all. So as is quite common with these machines, I elected to carefully veer away from the standard, albeit from the sort of seat tube and steering tube upwards. Really, I've fitted my own sort of extended seat post and extended you know, riser bar setup, and I think although they're a little bit cumbersome perhaps, I don't think it's too bad, and ultimately I fit and it's really comfortable. So yes, I found I lucked out really, because the standard seat post, if one inverts it and trims a little bit off, there's like a chamfer at the end of the seat tube, and then obviously I've taken that off and put a little slot in so I could put a clamp on there, and that is now essentially the new receiver for a smaller seat post. So I've sort of got obviously 2 points of adjustment, and I've got a decent amount of seat tube in the frame. So this was quite important. So I was quite pleased with how that worked out. And then at the front end, I managed to utilise a very basic steel quill stem riser, which you can find in various locations. I think you can get them online. I've got mine from St John Street Cycles, which is a very popular UK supplier of bits and bobs. And yeah, I used an adjustable, a generic, possibly a Raleigh branded adjustable quill stem to play around with the ultimate sort of handlebar position. And I settled upon some very basic upturned drops with the hooks trimmed back. A very sort of common, back in the day, people would run sort of fixed gear town bikes with this setup, because they are fairly narrow, but ideal for a folding bike actually. Yeah, I've gone with sort of a small, fairly narrow sort of aero bar, I suppose you would call them, and I find that it gives me a little bit more reach, and that is really very comfortable. And I sit upon a Spa Cycles touring leather saddle, which I've had for many years now. And Spa Cycles is a Harrogate based shop, and yeah, they produce their own sort of branded leather saddles, which I found to be very suitable. Yes, that's sort of the cockpit sorted, and as I said, this is all above, below there, aside from a new sort of rack bag, everything is standard, so it's easy to convert back should I want to. I've kept everything, yeah, it now fits me rather well, and it is very comfortable over a longer distance. So as regards wheels, now as with bicycles from this period, generally I find, unless they're really far gone, the quality of the chrome is always fairly good, and despite these on my bike looking really pretty terrible, they cleaned up remarkably well, almost to the point of looking virtually new, which is great. But the rims have taken a battering over their lifespan so far, and they're not great. I think I trued them up as best I could, but they still run a little bit wobbly, but it's bearable and I can cope with it. So they look really smart, and I can cope with that for now. And I decided to go with a pair of Whitewall Rally Record tyres, which were very reasonable, reasonably priced, and fairly easy to get hold of. There is not a huge choice of tyres for these, because they run the 20 by 1 and 3/8 size. So this is not what is on a lot of 20-inch wheeled machines. It's a fairly sort of old school size, but there's a few tyres available. They're nothing special. I with some trepidation put these up to 60 psi. They're rated at 55, but I've snuck a little bit in extra, and they seem fine. They roll fairly well, and they give a reasonably good ride. So they've been okay. Yeah, it's just a shame that they're a little bit wobbly, and I think possibly the rims at some stage have been, the bike might have been dropped and the rims might be out of round. I think that's mainly what the issue is. But I upgraded to some leather insert brake blocks for the standard steel calipers, and actually I have to say they did make a huge difference. They help a little bit when it's damp. I mean, braking caliper brakes on steel rims is not always particularly good braking, but the leather inserts really do help, especially when it's dry. They do add extra bite, so the brakes are adequate, I would say. Yeah, so it makes for a very sort of usable machine. And of course my version here is the Stowaway, which is the folder, and this all works tremendously well. Very basic single hinge system. Essentially just fold the frame in half, and now with the standard handlebars you can sort of fold them down a bit more. The bar clamp, I believe, has a sort of a quick release clamp on it. So mine now hasn't really got that. The riser parts to the stem that I've added, they're all sort of expander bolt fitted. So I could obviously undo the Allen bolts if I wanted to, and fold it down really compact. I could still do that for travelling a longer distance with it, but I'll be honest, just folding the bike up in half, that helps a lot. I do quite frequently pop it in my little car, and that it's fine. It's not the most compact or light folding bikes, but it does the job for me, so I'm happy with that. Oh, and the other thing as well, there's a nice little the clamp that tightens up the hinge. It has a sort of a rubber retaining grommet, and that is still intact after all these years, and that just stops the threaded section coming right out. And it has a very sort of reassuring locating feeling when you line it all back up and screw that up tight. So as I say, that does work really very nicely. And so yes, not really many other additions. I put on a carried ice rack top bag, a very basic one, and that has side pockets that actually fold down into sort of very sort of small panniers, which are quite useful. And yeah, I mean, as a day pack it's absolutely fine, and you can get what you need in there. So yeah, that is a general rundown of the bike. I put all new cables on it. It had the nice sort of textured old school outer cabling, but that had got quite a lot of defects in it, so it's now got nice nice new sort of white smooth outer cable housing. And oh, it's some very basic, I think they're Union branded flat pedals, not folding. I could actually do with some actually, so yeah, that's pretty much the bike, and yeah, it's very usable. I've done a lot of sort of varied different types of riding on this bike. It's fast accelerating in the urban environment because of its short wheelbase. It is because of my additions that you can tell there's a bit of flex, which is bound to be with the amount of mainly front end addition to the steerer. That I could probably do something better with that, but it's really not an issue. So yeah, it rides along very comfortably, and yeah, it's surprisingly nippy. And oh, I went up one tooth on the Sturmey Archer sprocket. I can't quite remember offhand. I think I went up to a 16 or a 17, just to give me drop the first gear down a little bit, and but yeah, so talking of the hub, that works perfectly nicely, and has the lovely direct drive for second gear, the lovely tick as you cruise along, which I am very fond of. So so yeah, that is an overview of my Raleigh 20. So they were built, I believe they came out in about 68, I think, and were made all the way through to the early 80s, and obviously you could get a fixed frame version, or indeed the folder, and yes, I think they were really rather popular, and there's been a lot of sort of latterly people have been using them extensively. They're a good sturdy frame, and indeed for more information and inspiration, I think it's well worth checking out Sheldon Brown on his web pages. He has used them extensively and modified them extensively, far more than I have done with mine, and that's well worth checking out. So lots of great information on there, so have a look at that. And so that leads me to say, well, am I going to modify it further? And the temptation is very strong. There are lots of options, especially gearing wise and wheel set wise. The exported models had the more standard sort of 20 by 1.75, I think they were, more of a sort of a BMX size wheel, and you can tell the brake calipers have quite a long reach to accommodate this, I think. I assume everything stayed the same other than the wheel set, so yeah, there's lots of options for modifying. Like I say, I shall probably save that for another video, but yes, there's definitely options there. So and there's plenty of inspiration of you know, of things I could possibly proceed with, but so far I've been really happy with this bike, and I hope you've enjoyed this little introduction, and you'll see the bike crop up at various times, I imagine, depending on what I'm doing and where I am, and so yeah, with that I shall say all the best to you all, and cheerio for now.